This podcast is part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club, a program designed to help all podcasts reach their full potential. For information about joining the Robots Radio Rocket Club, check out robotsradio.net.
Hey all you heroes and champions, crows, pirates, and inquisitors. Welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast. I'm Shelby.
And I'm Austin.
And we are so excited to bring you this podcast. Every episode, we'll be talking about a different topic in the Dragon Age universe. From the Maker to Lyrium to Aravels, we will cover it all. There will be spoilers. And always remember, swooping is bad.
Hello, and welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast, where we talk about all things regarding the lore of the Dragon Age series. I am Austin, also known as Teacup. I am one of your hosts for this podcast, and I'm here with my other host.
Yeah, I'm Shelby or She-Cup, and we're super excited to talk about Dragon Age today.
Yes. So today is a special episode, right, Shelby?
It's a very special episode.
Why is that?
Well, this is our June patron chat, so we have all of our patrons here with us. Well, all of our First Enchanter patrons here with us today, so we can kind of go around and introduce ourselves.
We'll start with Psych. Hey, Psych.
Hey, guys. Great to be here.
Yeah. And then we have Derek.
Hi, guys.
And I'm going to try to do this, but if I butcher your name, I'm sorry. Coca Shins.
Hey, how's it going?
And then Lisa M, or they're known in the Discord, LSFMX. I think I did that right.
Yeah, that's various letters from my name. Yeah, I'll just go by Lisa.
And then last, but certainly not least, is the lovely Genesis.
Aw, thanks for having me back, guys.
All right. So Shelby, what are we talking about today?
Well, today we are taking a page out of the Two Girls, One Ship playbook, because we're talking about our favorite romances in Dragon Age. So I'm very interested to see if we all have very similar ones, like if multiple people have picked like the same favorite romance, or if we're all totally different. I think it could go either way easily. So are we ready to get started?
Yeah, we'll just go down the screen again and just kind of share with us your favorite romance and a little bit just why. And yeah. So Psych.
All right. So my favorite is Cassandra from Inquisition. Can't say no to a strong woman. There's a lot of nuance to her. I feel like that you get a little bit of just by being friends with her, but really opens up when you romance her. And I think I find her cute and quirky. So
we'll do a real quick, just kind of opening up. Does anyone else rank Cassandra in their top 5 romances of Dragon Age?
I do.
Oh, I haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
I haven't finished the game as a main romance with Cassandra, so I haven't found out yet. So
it's a lot of fun. So
yeah.
Choose wisely for your divine is really all I can say on that.
Mm-hmm.
You get a really cute scene if you play your cards a certain way, and it's so heartbreaking but so funny. In Trespasser.
I like Cassandra. She's up there with me, mainly because she's one of the few Inquisition companions that gets a quest associated with her romance, and that's a lot of fun if you haven't done that.
I'll save my thoughts for later when I share.
Right. All right. Well, then we'll go to Derek next.
I chose Alistair. It was a hard decision, actually, but I chose him mainly because mostly because I heard that he was an interesting romance option, and I chose to just play through the game as a Kuzlan warrior. And I found out that he's pretty weird, funny, and an interesting character put all together. Pretty heartwarming too, and but he wasn't clingy either, as some of those romances in some games can be. I found that he often cracked me up too in a couple lines, and this is at the top of my head, and I wrote this down at 9:30, so bear with me. It was we're walking through the woods, and Wynn says, "I can't notice how you watch her." Alistair, wait, what? Huh? Wynn, you're watching her now. Something like that. It's just made me laugh. And the later on appearances and awakenings cracked me up. And I know they were kind of cheesy, but it was funny just seeing them interact, even though the protagonist was a silent protagonist, but it was a neat interaction between Alistair and, it was a good interaction. I mean, I almost chose Meryl, but I had to choose Alistair.
Alistair and Wynn have some of the best dialogue in that game. It's just hilarious. And I feel like when you do romance Alistair, if you take Alistair and Wynn and Morgan in your party, like they all just kind of roast him for liking you. And it's hilarious to me. Just that whole dialogue is great. So
there's a dialogue where Wynn attempts to give Alistair the talk, which is hilarious.
Oh, yes. I remember that one, and I had to stop all gameplay just to listen to it.
Oh,
I mean, he kind of needs the talk. So, like, respect for Wynn to take that on.
Anyone else have thoughts on Alistair?
He is one of my top favorite romances of like pretty much any game. Okay, while me personally does not like the whole innocence aspect of it, because I don't like the idea of my character sleeping with a 19-year-old boy, but he's totally adorable. His body model is absolutely gorgeous, and I just love to watch his character development throughout the entire series.
All right, Koga Shins.
So it was very hard deciding, but I had to go with Fenris with Mage Hawk. Fenris, just like he was a slave to Daenerys for so many years. Suffered physical, emotional, and psychological abuse at magical hands. Killed his friends at the order of his master. I think it talked about like physically touching his tattoos caused him physical discomfort, and I feel like part of the foundation of his character is his inherent distrust for mages, but with a mage hawk, he sets all of that aside. And I think at one point he says that was, pursuing that relationship was one of the hardest things he's ever had to do. He runs out after the romance scene because he's too scared of the happiness, but he comes back. I think after you confront Daenerys, his assistant, he runs out on you again because he doesn't want to be comforted, but he doesn't go home. He goes like straight to your house to apologize. And then even at the end, he doesn't hesitate to side with you over the Templars. As much as he distrusts the mages, he is that committed to your relationship. Also, fun fact, he wears like a red ribbon around his wrist, and he has like the hawk Amel crest on his belt if you romance him, and he wears that like the whole rest of the time. And I love it.
Austin, we know you love Fenris.
He's one of my favorite characters of all Dragon Age, maybe all video games.
Yeah, I definitely think like his romance and just like his inclusion as a character in the game is really important because he's such a person of trauma and like overcoming that trauma. And there's so many people in the world who experience trauma and horrible things, maybe not to like the level or the severity that Fenris has, but we can all relate to that. We can all relate to that at least a little bit. And so I really appreciate him as a character for that reason.
Also his voice, so sultry.
Yes, this is true. He's in another video game series, Gideon Emery. Who knows which one it is? I can't remember.
He's in Destiny 2. He voices one of the NPCs. I can't remember which one. I know that he does a bunch of Elder Scrolls voices as well. But I can't remember exactly what it is.
He's also Balthazar in Final Fantasy 13. And so he's a main character that is with you the entire game. And that's where I fell in love with his voice.
Which character is that in Final Fantasy 13?
It's
What does he look like?
Balthazar. He's the gun guy that hangs out with the bunny chick.
Yeah. Lisa.
I have gone for these purposes. I'm going with a pretty left field one, Dorian Parvis, which for me was sort of an interesting progression, or I think this is the romance that I had to kind of work on the most, because people who know me will know that I'm kind of a killjoy with my constant need for critical reading. So I came into it thinking like, here goes that stereotype, and then grew to love Dorian as a character, how he's performed, how he's written, so much that I chose him for my second romance after in Inquisition, after having accidentally started off with the Solus one. And after all of the world building, lore building, giant revelations of my first playthrough, I really wanted something. Let's see what the normies are doing meanwhile. Just none of that immortal ancient nonsense. Just two shems in love. That's So and I got very attached to it. It's a romance that left me with very positive feelings afterwards. And I'm happy to go into the details later, but yeah, this is a feel-good romance for me, and also one that I think about a lot in respect to the upcoming game, aka Dad, because I really want to see what Dorian is up to, and I'm quite worried about him.
I have to ask, what race were you when you first romanced Dorian?
Kunari mage. So I figured they would have some common ground, both ostracized mages of some kind, but also then, of course, it's a political. Does he bring him back to Tevinter? Can that be considered treason? Hard to say. But I like thinking about that. Would also be interesting with maybe with a Dalish or Elven Inquisitor.
Yeah, I go back and forth all the time, like thinking about, would it be more dangerous for Dorian to be in a relationship with an Elven Inquisitor or a Kunari Inquisitor? And I think I finally landed on Kunari, but I could be convinced of either side pretty easily.
Yeah, I think there's a reason that they included the optional romance with the Iron Bull that will just happen in the background, because that is just the most ridiculous possible plot that you could think of. And Dorian loves it, I think, for its whole ridiculousness.
Well, I think one thing that I appreciate about Dorian is the way he's written as a character. I really appreciate that his sexuality is important to his character, but it's not his entire character, which makes him feel all the more real to me as a character.
Yeah, I didn't say that at first. I fell into the trap of seeing the stereotypes that are included, and then completely did a 180 on it. I don't want to get into that too much, otherwise we're going into sort of academic queer readings of characters, and I can talk about that for 2 hours. So yeah, maybe leave it at that for now.
I love Dorian, but I always feel really bad for him because the bull is my canon romance in the Inquisition. So I'm like, oh, you're all alone.
And that's why they should include non-monogamous relationships in BioWare games, and hopefully they're working on that.
All right. Jen.
It sounds like I have found somebody that we need to interview on Two Girls, One Ship. Lisa, if you would like to join us one day.
Oh gosh. Yeah, if you can deal with my rambles about Dorian, sure. Yeah, no problem. I would love that.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyways, so I came in and I was wondering, should I go with something that Austin is going to hate and say that my favorite romance is Anders? Or should I go with the one that I'm really, really having a lot of fun with right now and go with the Iron Ball?
why don't you tell us why you love them both?
Okay. The big thing about the Iron Bull is that I haven't finished his romance yet, and I have not spoiled myself on it at all. I think I only watched the one hilarious scene, and that was the only snippet that I had seen before I started playing the game. So I've not spoiled myself on how it ends or anything like that. But I really do love the way that it has developed so far and going into all of that. But the reason that I love Anders so much also is that he instantly pulled at my heartstrings when I saw him giving milk to kittens. And I'm like, oh, not only that, but you started calling me sweetheart. And it's like nobody else in DA2 that I could think of gives you a pet name like that. A sweetheart is actually just it's what we use in our relationship here. So I'm like, I like it, and it connected well with me.
Well, then what did you think about the ending with Anders doing his little Anders thing? How did that end for your playthrough?
Actually, I was okay with it. When he decided to take a stance and make something happen, push the line forward to, you guys have been debating, arguing, trying to solve something for almost 10 years. Words aren't enough anymore. Here is something that is going to cause an action to be taken. And I was like, all right, I am in full support of my sister Bethany, and I want to be able to start something that is going to have an end. I was okay with it.
Austin, are you seething?
No. I'm going to save my thoughts for our Anders episode.
No, share now.
Okay.
Share a little bit now.
I was just going to say that I don't disagree with anything Jen said. I just wish Anders hadn't committed mass murder to take his stand.
Valid.
And the biggest thing about and this is really what gets me with Anders, comes to two things. One, it all has to do with Fenris. But the other thing that gets me with this is Anders' deception, because up until that point when I first played DA2, I was all gung-ho. Anders like, yeah, Anders, you got a point. And so I'm like, yeah, I'll help you do whatever you need to in the chantry. And then me at whatever, I think I was like 19 or something when I played that game and the chantry blows up, I'm just like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
We could have done this better. Not that we didn't have to not do it. We could have done it better.
And I see that, and I agree with you on that point, that I do not like the fact that so many people died in order for that to happen. But I also, for me, I wanted to romance Fenris. As soon as I saw him, I was like, ooh, hello. And then the voice hits, and I'm like, oh, freaking hello. But then some of the first words out of his mouth are like, I wish Bethany were dead. And I'm like, yep, nope, off, completely written off. And I couldn't, I don't think that you change his mind on the stances of mages? Does he ever fully accept any of them?
As much as you can change someone who has been enslaved and abused to the extent Fenris has about mages. We can talk about that where he is at kind of post DA2 is kind of like, okay, maybe not all mages are bad, but all Tevinter mages are bad.
Okay.
I actually have a point on that. At one point he says, I have no doubt that some are good and noble men, strong enough to resist temptation, but how many temptations do you wish to offer a man before he will give in? I meant to mention this in my part, but I think to your point, Genesis, of does he ever actually, can he actually ever, move past that resentment of the mages and distrust? In my view, when he's romanced, I think he does, because he's choosing to love somebody that he views as a possible ticking time bomb. And it's like, why would you choose that if you didn't see a greater, like something, a better, greater good in that person, that you might be wrong.
Mm-hmm. There's also a conversation that happens if you are not a mage, Hawk. And so you have Bethany. Anders basically will say to Fenris, he'll be like, not all mages are weak. And Fenris basically claps back and says, Bethany's not weak. And then Anders is all offended. He's like, are you calling me weak? I'm not weak. And Fenris basically goes, you need to prove it to yourself because you're not fooling anyone.
All right.
That's my favorite, Fenris.
Genesis, I have a question. Did you cover Anders on your podcast?
We've not done Dragon Age 2 yet. It's scheduled for the end of the year. We like to do Dragon Age around December because Dragon Age December.
Oh, well, that's kind of follows up my question is like, I really think like the Alice, I mean, excuse me, I still own Alistair, but Anders has there's vastly two different Anders in the game. Like Awakening's Alistair, if I had the choice, I would have probably romanced him instead of the one in DA2, mainly because he was kind of fun, a little bit fun in Awakenings. I mean, a little annoying, but and then we got, we're getting into the topic of him being, going to those extremes. What did you play? You played the Awakenings, right? Or
no, the version that I got didn't come with a whole lot of DLCs. So I did not get that version of Anders, but I do know of it where him and Justice are separate. They're not combined yet. So you do get a different version of Anders, but even with Justice, I don't mind a switchy boy. I'm good.
I was gonna say that I think I go back and forth on this all the time, like whether or not I like Awakening Anders more or DA2 Anders more. And I saw this tweet recently that was talking about how basically Anders in Awakenings is just like discount Alistair, which I don't necessarily disagree with. Like he is just kind of the jokey character and doesn't have as much depth as he does in DA2. But I do think we really start to see Anders, especially in Act 1 when we first meet him. We see like how much he cares for other people in his, his little clinic thing. Like he wouldn't be doing that if caring for other people wasn't important to him. And so I think that really tells us a lot about his personality and who he is, regardless of justice or not. And then over the course of the 3 acts, you really start to see him change, I think, and become more bitter and more into vengeance than justice. And so I think that that's such an interesting arc that it's always going to beat out what we see in Awakenings.
I always say that Anders and Jowan are the same type of characters, that Anders just cares about other people and Jowan doesn't.
Hard disagree. That is a hot take, Austin. Like verifiable hot take.
Correct.
Right. I mean, it really is like that. They have similar views on the circle. They have similar reasons for fleeing the circle. If we take in Awakening Anders. But it's just that Anders cares about other people. Anders would never abandon someone that he quote unquote loves because things are getting dangerous for him.
I mean, I hear your point, but like I can like agree with someone without being the same archetype as them.
That's true. I still think they're similar character types.
We'll have to agree to disagree because I'm not over this.
Okay. So I'll let Shelby go last since she's the lore person. So her opinion is obviously correct.
No.
Saving some points there, Austin.
So my favorite romance is obviously Fenris, but I'm not going to talk about that because we already talked about Fenris. I'm going to talk about my favorite Dragon Age Inquisition romance, which happens to be Cullen. And I really enjoy the Cullen romance, mainly because I'm a sap for the sad, broken person who needs to be loved and fixed. And that's Cullen to a T. He's been through a lot, and I think Cullen is a good example of a redeemable character. The way he starts and finishes are completely different characters, and he grows to see the errors of his ways, and to see him like repent and carry the regret of what happens in Kirkwall, I think is a good example of a redemption story that we don't often get in media.
I just think it's really interesting how you are talking about you are a sucker for like the person that's broken and needs help putting themselves back together, but you don't extend Anders that same grace.
I see his point. To, I guess, say it, Cullen doesn't do what Anders does. So
that's fair. That's very fair.
And to be fair, in my canon, Anders is dead, so Anders doesn't get a chance to atone for what he did. Because this is, in my playthrough, that's the only time I've ever rage killed a character. I clicked that execute button so fast. And then I felt bad about it because you basically just like kind of walk up to him and just stab him in the back. You don't even look at him or say anything to him. Oh, Jen, after Zevran and this, Jen is just not going to be my friend anymore.
First you tell me that you kill Zev, and now you're telling me that you kill Anders. What, are you going to come up and slay the bull and Alistair on me too? Jeez.
I think with Anders, and like the difference between Cullen and Anders is that Anders makes a choice to basically become what he's been trying to tell the Templars that he's not. By letting justice possess him and basically become an abomination. It's kind of like the whole thing about like, okay, Orsino, you've been spending all this time telling Meredith that you're not going to use blood magic. And then you reveal not only are you using blood magic, but you sanctioned the research that killed my mom. Like, you suck. So that's kind of where I am with Anders.
I hear that. I guess I just feel like Cullen and Anders are a little bit the opposite of each other. Like, Anders is this person that is like fighting for mage freedom, right? And then he has like really bad decision-making skills. And of course, because he's an abomination. And so he, commits genocide and terrorism. But then Cullen, when he's in Kirkwall, he's second in command to Meredith. He could have stopped Meredith at some point. Like, it's within Cullen's rights as the second in command of the Templars to be the person that checks the power of the Templar that's in command. And then if they don't listen, it's his job to then go to the rest of the Templars and say, okay, like, our leader has gone past their duty. It's time for us to remove them. And he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that at all in Kirkwall. And I think that's part of what haunts him in Inquisition. So I feel like they both have a lot of lives on their hands. It's just that we get to see Cullen redeem himself and work to make amends for that. And we don't get to see Anders do that at all.
Yeah. And I think that, like, if I had let Anders live, I think there's potential for him to, like, actually help the people that he ended up hurting. And I think that's another point with me and Anders is, like, yes, you make this stand, but your action results in the death of so many mages. And so, but I think that if you ask Varric what happened to him, if you let him live, he basically says that he is helping the rogue mages escape Kirkwall and get, or something like that. And so maybe, I don't know.
Oh yeah. Blondie's still around. Varric talks about him especially when questioning, when you question him about Hawk. Blondie Bear is still around.
I don't have a favorite Origins romance because
you didn't do any of them.
Well, I've done them all now. None of them appeal to me.
Yeah, let's talk about your first playthrough again.
Yeah,
listen,
let's not bring it up again.
My first playthrough of these games is always terrible. BioWare I suck at getting the good ending the first time at these BioWare games.
I didn't recruit Liliana on my first playthrough, if that makes you feel any better. Totally missed her.
Look,
Many
here's the
mistakes.
when you play Dragon Age coming off of KOTOR, you just skip Lothering because you assume it's just like Terrace, and really, like, nothing important for a planet you spend most of the game on. Nothing important happens there except for rescuing Bastila.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That is a really good point. Like, having redone it recently, like, yeah, it's just there to teach you how to do everything, and it's really fucking long.
So that's how I viewed Lothering, and that's why I didn't get Sten or Liliana. But
Okay, well, I'm going to talk about two. My most favorite, like my personal favorite, is Cassandra. And I'm sure y'all could all have guessed that. But I really love her romance because I feel like it's such an awesome representation of like a strong woman who is a warrior and who is maybe a little rough around the edges, who is literally buff, who could kill you barely like with her fingernail. But also in her romance, she's so tender. She is a sap, as we know from her reading of Varric's novels. And I love that juxtaposition of like the strong woman can also be sentimental and sweet and tender. I don't think we get that characterization a lot in video games or just in general media at all. So I really love it when we see strong women who are not just strong all the time, who can have that tender side, who can have the soft side that they show and let their guard down to the people that they love. And I very much love that. What I don't love about her romance is that she's only romanceable by a male inquisitor. I am not a fan of that. I think she should have been romanceable by any gender. So that is my gripe about her romance. But I do love the romance a lot. And I will say that's the only time I've ever played a boy inquisitor, and probably won't be the last time because I do want to romance Dorian. But yes. So I love Cassandra. But also I wanted to talk about Meryl for a little bit because I really didn't like Meryl when I first played through Dragon Age 2. I thought she was kind of annoying and like, why would you be involved with this mirror that's talking to you? Like, that seems obviously not good. But I romanced her on my most recent playthrough in Dragon Age 2. And I just really got to know her a little bit more than I did in my first playthrough. And she also is a very sweet and tender character. And I love that she doesn't let Kirkwall like make her bitter. I love that she doesn't let the city take away her Merylness, if that makes sense. And also in the romance, I think that we really see how much she really cares about her people. That's why she's doing all this. She's not doing it for her own gain or anything like that. She's doing it because she cares about the people, her people, the Elven people. So I appreciate her romance for that as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you think you would have had the same reaction to Meryl the first time you played if you hadn't played a Dalish Inquisitor in DAO?
You mean a Dalish Warden?
Oh, Warden, yeah, that's what I meant.
I don't know.
Because that probably I'm just thinking that would like color your interpretation of an Alluvian.
Yeah, that's fair because of the blighted one in that origin. You're probably right that did have an impact for sure, but I didn't put that together at that time.
Right.
Yeah, I agree, Shelby, with what you said about Meryl. I mean, she was a very independent and interesting character throughout DA2, and I'm glad that somebody here chose her to represent her because she's such an interesting character.
Meryl was my first romance.
I recently romanced Cassandra for the first time, and I was like, okay, Bull, you can go back to Dorian for a while. But I was almost the opposite with Meryl. She was my first romance in DA2. And for a while, I first liked her, and I was like, oh, great, you move into my house? I love it. Like, yeah, totally, you should focus on helping your people. But the more I played it, now I'm kind of like, why did you move in my house? This is very quick and sudden. Also, you're kind of betraying your people a little bit with your methods of preserving them. So now I pursue like the rivalry with her, which is equally interesting for me.
Here is a point in, having things in the same thing. I do not support Meryl's blood magic, and I don't support Anders' blood magic either.
See, I support Meryl's, but not Anders. Is that hypocritical? Yes. Do I care? No.
One day we'll talk about my Meryl is an agent of Fenharel theory.
We should do a DAD theories episode, and that can be part of it.
So I think just for funsies, real quick, let's go around and do either your what you would categorize as your least favorite romance, or just the romance that you are not interested in. I'll go first. Mine is Blackwall. I recently did the Blackwall romance, and it's just vanilla to me. When you compare it with like the depth and everything that you get with the Bull's romance or Dorian's romance, Cassandra's, Cullen's, all of these other romances, it just kind of falls flat for me.
I agree with that. I would also pick Blackwall. I kind of vaguely started doing it, and he's like, "Milady." Immediately I was like, nah. And then I watched the entire thing on YouTube just to see what I was missing. And yeah, despite his whole really quite intense redemption arc, the romance itself doesn't seem to, there's not much weight to it in some way. It didn't give me the feels.
Right. I think part of it for me, it lies in his actual like character design, like his model type, and that like he has like resting "I'm about to cry" face.
There are so many.
He does. Sorry, I was just gonna say the resting cry face. The first couple of interactions you have with him, if you're trying to do a romance, is just him basically saying, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy. It's very off-putting. Yeah, and maybe he also kind of looks like that.
I kind of liked the fact that there were, quote, not attractive romance options in Inquisition, because in my opinion, Sarah's not all that attractive in, especially comparing it to like how the origin characters would look if they were in a better engine, game engine. They would be gorgeous, all of them. So Sarah and Blackwall to me are the normal looking people, and I like that. But then they also gave them really normal, bland romances, and I'm like, no, you should have made them super awesome, because normal looking real world people are awesome.
Their character models, I do feel like, speak to, kind of who they are, right? Sarah comes from as an orphan, city elf, and so forth, right? And then Blackwall and his past, right? He's not someone, or he tries to not be someone of worth anymore, right? As someone who also like personally deals with like feelings of inadequacy. I like Blackwall. Like, I get him as a person. I also understand like the look, like his face just looks tired. He looks world weary to me. And so I get that. I get that a lot.
I will say that regarding Sarah and Blackwall, I do think that of the Inquisition companions, maybe other than Cassandra, they're the morally like superior companions. The ones who have like, if anyone has the moral high ground, it's those three people.
Only Blackwall after he like redeems himself, though.
Yeah, that's true.
I want to throw out this bomb out there. I would absolutely simp for Vivian, but my least favorite romance, and is also one of my earliest ones, and I'm real sorry, Genesis, but it's Anders, because I always play as a mage, and I'm like, it's not that bad. Also, like, all of these people are doing blood magic, though. Like, they have a little bit of a point. Just don't do blood magic, and you're fine. Also,
Why did you move into my house? Please leave.
Okay, point though on that one. Anders doesn't have a house. He doesn't have a house. So him moving in with you makes sense. The only part that doesn't make sense to me in Dragon Age 2 specifically is that there's no continual romance scenes. You can walk up and kiss your Dragon Age Origins character whenever you want to. You can kiss him mid-battle, and then you can go in Inquisition and kiss whoever you want whenever you want. But then DA2, where your dude's literally living in the house with you, are you saying I can't walk up and ask to kiss the guy living in my house?
That's fair.
I'm going to chalk that up to rush development.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say that one as well. Of like they just didn't have time to really put the spit polish on that. Also, like as a point for the mages, like no shit's really bad. I would just say that.
Not if you're Hawk. I mean, Hawk, you can just basically summon
Right,
and
yeah.
sacrifice a demon and no one's going to bat an eye.
Right, yeah. No, like for Hawk, it's great. For everyone else, it's not.
Hawk can practice blood magic and nobody bats an eye.
The powers of money.
And plot armor.
And that. I don't care for Dorian. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. I think that's safely where I should stop talking.
But I want to know why, though.
All right. So
There's
all
a
right,
lot.
when-
There's a lot of reasons actually why people legitimately. There's a lot of legitimate reasons. But yeah. I'm also interested to hear it.
So when I first played it, I was a male Kunari mage, and I just found him insufferably arrogant, and I was just like, my dude, stop. It takes for me, it took way too long for him to show the rest of his character, and then by then I was already locked into a relationship with Cassandra. I was like, it takes to the end of the game for me to be like, okay, you weren't quite that bad, but you could still just a little bit, all right? But yeah, so that's for me, like why I just didn't like Dorian.
From me as the Dorian simp, I can really see that happen. Like I had a similar sort of strong reaction against at the beginning, but then kind of spent a lot of time thinking about all the characters and the what the arrogance that he brings across is to me now is just kind of like the demeanor of someone who is processing fairly severe trauma and making pretty brave decisions constantly, just kind of carrying himself in that way to kind of like, just shield himself off to the world a bit and kind of, it's I don't know. I've not really psychologically analyzed it, but I kind of, think about his background so much now that I can never really perceive the banter as that arrogant anymore. And then if you say arrogant, also he comes from a incredibly privileged background as an Altus to Winter guy, which he's detached himself from for obvious reasons. Family politics, horrible stuff, including conversion therapy, aka blood magic. But he still has that background, and you hear him make flippant sounding comments about slavery, where you're like, but that's how someone like him, I guess, would deal with that. Sounding kind of resigned and or flippant, which could very well be triggering to people listening to that who let's get Anders let's get Fenris in a room with him, and that'll be fun.
Oof. I don't know which one.
He's not the easiest person to make friends with, but then once you do, it's pretty much the ideal best friend. There's another gay trope, the gay best friend.
True.
I just want to say Fenris would kill Dorian and then force Dorian to use his own magic to bring him back as a spirit.
That's probably true. That's probably true. I was
100%.
I was gonna add, I think as a Teventer mage, like, and future magister, arrogance is literally bred into him from like 18 generations back. So I try not to fault him for that, even though I do find it annoying myself sometimes.
I find that and I made this realization during our Dorian episode that Miranda Lawson and Dorian are the same character type. Just both are trophies that their fathers want to parade around for their legacy. Both suffer trauma on this ideal to be perfect. Both use arrogance and, for lack of a better word, bitchiness as a shield to keep people at a distance, to keep themselves from being harmed. And both characters, once you break through that, reveal an emotionally deep character. And so once I made that realization, my view of Dorian and Miranda really changed in that.
Dorian is the guy that I would leave the bar with, but I'm not taking him to meet my friends or my family.
That's probably fair. Derek, have you shared your least favorite romance?
No, not yet, but I will. It's a little hard for me. Like I'm kind of in the middle of a game, Inquisition, and I'm trying to hard romance with Sarah, but I'm as an elf, and she's being very, very abrasive. So, as one might suspect, and being a mage,
More
too,
difficult than the Winter Palace, I would argue.
Yes.
What's that?
In terms of approval as an elf with Sarah, I would say worse than the Winter Palace.
And I think down at the bottom, I would have to go for some of you, as Blackwall was kind of a disappointment. And he was probably my first romance in playing when I first picked up the game. And I felt like that was pretty of a letdown, him just taking off after the night of. So it was that was kind of a disappointment. And I kind of figured that was, I know he has the redemption arc and he's probably one of the best tanks in the game, but I felt like, and I did actually at one time left him in the prison, and I felt bad for that. But I feel those are my guys. Those are my romances. I do feel like Meryl was sort of another option, but I feel that she was also sort of her blood magic was the one thing, and having to go and kill, having to do everything for her and all of that, and having to kill her clan was just too much.
So it's maybe a little controversial, but my least favorite romance character is Hawk. I don't think that, honestly, I wasn't a good girlfriend either. I don't know. The Hawk just didn't do it for me. My warden was really good to Alistair, and so far my Kunari has been really good to Iron Bull, but I don't know. Hawk just didn't seem like a very good boyfriend girlfriend.
I think that Hawk very much kind of falls into the bro trap of the way the voice acting is done sometimes, and the way that the character model is. They rely so much on the romanced character for the intimacy, whereas no intimacy comes from the player character.
Yeah.
Which is a major criticism I have of BioWare games.
Yeah. So I was just you know what? I don't know if I would romance Hawk. That's not my choice. So that's the worst romance for me.
I'd go on a date with Purple Hawk.
I guess to kind of support that, it's also just another one of those signs that the development of 2 was a little rushed, because you've got two out of 3 main characters, right, that are pretty much well written, and then you've got Hawk, and he's they are kind of a slump there.
Hawk's too powerful.
Mm-hmm.
As a player character, he's too powerful. The things that he does, it's nothing could. ever like break him. Like I fully expect if you leave Hawk in the Fade. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Jen.
Oh no, I got past that part. I know what you're talking about.
Awesome. If you leave Hawk in the Fade, I fully believe he'd get out. Just because the games have presented him as that powerful. Or she.
Yeah, I agree with that, I think. And also, like, if your Hawk is a mage, there's no way. Like, how do they not know? How do they not know? You know, especially if you're a blood mage Hawk. Like, how everyone should know. But anyway.
Hawk's gonna come back. Blood Mage Hawk will come back with the Fear Demon as their bitch.
That's fair.
Shelby, who's your least favorite?
Well, before I tell you my least favorite, I'm literally shocked that no one has said Solus is their least favorite. I thought I thought we'd have some that love Solus and hate Solus, and also same for Anders, but we did have some of that. Solus is not my least favorite though. My least favorite, actually, this may be a little bit of a hot take, is Josephine.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was just kind of vanilla. Kind of like what you said about Blackwall Austin, even though there is the fun cutscene where you can like duel the guy she's engaged to or whatever. But it just, other than that, I didn't really feel like there were any moments where Josie and the Inquisitor like got to establish a relationship with one another outside of like work. Like you can flirt with her, sure, but I just didn't really feel like there was anything, I guess, deep there. So I didn't love her romance. So
I think it speaks for me having the same sort of feelings that I did not even think about her in terms of, it didn't even cross my mind that she's in the mix there for romances.
Yeah, can I change my answer? Because I completely forgot Josephine was even an option, which is like kind of like how you forgot G0T0 existed, Shelby. Like, you just totally forgot Josephine's even an option. So yeah, I would throw mine in for that.
Yeah, and I think the problem is she feels so professional. Like she just works. She doesn't really do anything fun. Like she doesn't talk to anyone outside of work. She never leaves her office. Like I just see her as professional.
Right. And like if you want a true, like they paint Josephine as kind of like the bisexual, pansexual like option, but Bull is right there.
Jen, are you gonna say something?
Yeah, there's one other character that nobody has brought up yet, and technically he's a DLC character, but Sebastian is also a romance option.
Oh,
that's because Sebastian sucks.
Exactly, I'm aware, but
if I want,
still an option.
If I wanted to date Sebastian, I'd go back to high school.
I am currently romancing Josephine in my Inquisition playthrough.
Have you liked it so far, or have I ruined it?
I like it, and I like her. I didn't know. I know this game is super old, so it can't be considered a spoiler, but I didn't know that she's engaged.
Sorry.
She's cheating on me?
No, it's not really like that. It's not really like that.
She's cheating with you.
You are the other person.
Oh, we should have a honorary mention of the flirtation with Scout Harding, because it's just so nice. Or is it? I don't know. You're kind of the Inquisitor flirting with this one of your employees. It's awkward, but it's also just really nice. And of course doesn't go anywhere because she has a DLC relationship of her own. But I just wanted to mention her because she's great.
She is great. I love her. And I swear, if we don't get a dwarven romance in DAD, I am going to be upset.
I hope the dwarven romance is the one that betrays you.
Stop. Don't even put that out there.
Dude, you were like this close from not sleeping on the couch.
Nah, you're fine.
She won't make me sleep on the couch because then the dog will keep her up all night because I'm not in the room.
That's accurate. Yeah.
Okay.
Or I'll get too cold. All right. Well, is there anything else we have to talk about with romances?
I think so. Not for me.
Let's wrap this thing up, Austin.
All
That's your
right. Well, Shelby, why don't you read our patrons that we read every episode?
All right. So we always thank our first 5 patrons, and some of them are here with us today. So I'm just going to read all of your names out. Lisa M, Genesis, Derek B, and Zuba. Thank y'all so much. And we are also highlighting our new patrons. And we do have a new patron today, and that would be Becky. Thank you so much for becoming our newest patron.
Yeah, thank you so much. And so we'll just go down the list really quick. And if any patrons want to share where people can find you, if they want to ask questions or chat with you. And so we'll just start with Psych since he's the first.
All right, thank you. So I got 3 things to plug real quick here. So first, I'm Psych88 on the Robots Radio Discord. I am one half of the MCU Lorecast, which we'll start putting together episodes here soon since my host has gotten much better internet. That is with Captain Shenko. The second thing is the Mass Effect Blue Shift. It's a tabletop RPG set in the Mass Effect universe. I'm one of the players. It's a lot of fun. We're working on new episodes now. And then lastly is a more local thing. If you are in the greater Oklahoma City metro area, come down to Norman and see me in a production of Much Ado About Nothing. If you need more details for that, you can look up Norman Family Theater.
Derek.
So you can contact me on Discord on Derek's Dragons. And on my other life is I'm a professional artist, and you can check my work out on Instagram at Perfect Poultry Portraits. And I paint pretty much a ton of oil paintings and whatever. So that's my touche life. So check it out.
Cookashins.
This has been awesome. I am Cash_Collins on Twitter, and I'm Cash C Collins on Instagram, and then I'm also on the Discord.
Lisa.
Yeah, I've got nothing gaming related to plug. Yeah, on the Discord as LSFMX, and otherwise, if you want to see my illustration work, it's at lisamax.net. That's it. This was great. I could chat for another 3 hours if there was time.
All right. Genesis.
Yes, hello. I am Genesis, one half of the Two Girls, One Ship podcast, where we analyze, rate, and review all that the world of video game romances has to offer. We have episodes out about all of the Dragon Age Origins characters. And then we also did a special sit-down interview with the Cups, where we talked about pretty much all Dragon Age romances. But we've also covered other BioWare games, Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2. We're currently working our way through Cyberpunk right now. And we record Friday nights. So if you want to come follow us on Twitch, we are at twitch.com/2girls1ship. And we have cross platforms on everything. So it's all one word, all spelled out TWOGIRLSONESHIP. But you can find me on the Discord. The main one, I'm Jenna Sis. And on the Cups Discord, I am Jenna Sith, because I have to represent holocrons in there. I like it.
All right. Well, you can find us on our personal Discord server, the Cups Podcasting and more. You can find that link in the episode description, or you can head over to the Robots Radio Discord, where you can find us as well in our own channel there. That will also be in the episode description. Also, and lastly, if you would like to come on the show with us once a month, you too can join our First Enchanter tier and join us once a month to talk about all things Dragon Age. But we will be back here again next week, continuing our series on magics, demons, and spirits. Oh my. All right, we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. As always, you can find us on Twitter at DA Lorecast. If you have any lore questions, topics to unpack, or side character suggestions, email them to us at dalorecast@gmail.com. The Dragon Age Lorecast is a part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club. You can join the Robots Radio Network Discord by clicking the link in our episode description. If you enjoyed our show, we'd love it if you'd subscribe and give us a review. See you next time.
I'm your host, Maverick Stone.
It's me, Gingerino42.
I'm Romer.
Hey, this is Sassy Lady.
And I'm Jaxus. And we are the Fallout Roundtable. Join us as we explore various topics from the Fallout universe brought from multiple perspectives. We can be found on your favorite podcatchers from Spotify to iTunes. Or follow us on Twitter at FalloutRTB or our email falloutrtb@gmail.com. Be sure to rate, follow, and subscribe. Thank you.